Hi guys, so today's video is going to be my October TBR. I'm just gonna jump right into it. First up on the list would be the next book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. That is apparently how the author Steven Erikson pronounces the series name.
Malazan Book of the Fallen.
I feel like nobody takes that seriously. No, and I feel like a poser. Like I'm not even done with the first one, so I don't feel it's appropriate for me to go around being like Malazan. But anywho, this is a series that currently I am buddy reading with a bunch of you, and every time I talk about the buddy read, I always end up saying thanks because you guys are great and you're making the experience of reading this an experience. It's really fun getting to read it with all of you. That said, I'm very grateful that all of you are so fun because the book is not. If you guys are wanting to get into this series and you're maybe a little daunted because you've heard what a lot of us have heard, which is that it's really dense, really difficult to get into, you can join the Facebook group whenever. I'll have it linked down below. Really, the people in the group are so much fun. We have people reading it for the first time. We have people reading for the 10th time. It was literally sunny and shiny, and now it's windy and starting to rain. So you're gonna see my lighting is gonna change. It's gonna look like garbage, but I'm gonna tell you guys about my TBR anyway. Not only is the lighting totally different now, but you're probably gonna hear rain pounding against the window. Getting back to Malazan though. So, oh my gosh, the rain. When I see people talk about Malazan online, I've found that a lot of times it's likely not intended, but sometimes a little bit, there's this air of superiority surrounding Malazan. And I kind of want to encourage everybody who is interested in the series to sort of ignore that. It's not that the series isn't dense, because it definitely is dense, and I have read some of the first book, so I'm most definitely not an expert. But I'm finding that there seems to be this idea that because the book is dense and because there's a lot of characters to keep track of, it may be a little too much for some people. You might not be able to keep up. That's kind of sort of the vibe, when really, this is a really, really cheesy analogy, but this is more actually what it's like. It's like you like hiking, right? You really enjoy hiking. And there are some hikes that have beautiful scenery, and there are some hikes where it's all about that view when you get to the top. And then there are hikes that are all about the challenge. It looks like just pollution at the top, and there's no trail to get up. The scenery along the way isn't particularly pretty. It is literally just about the challenge. And so when you're talking to some people about this particular hike, and they tell you, oh, it might not be for you. I mean, it is really difficult. And it's like, no, I can do it. I can get there. It's just, why do I want to? Because currently in the very first book of Malazan, Gardens of the Moon, I don't really care about anything that's happening. And a lot of people who are big fans of the series and have read the entire series will say that that first book is not the strongest indication of what the series has to offer. But I just wanted to clear the air a little bit, because I feel like people talk about the series as if it is so extremely difficult, and it's dense, but it's not dense because the people that don't like it are stupid and they're too dumb to follow along. It's that there's not really a ton of development. Everything is extremely subtle, and there's tiny little hints. And then on top of that, the author purposefully withholds information from the reader. He won't name characters in certain scenes, so you kind of have to infer through context later, oh hey, that was that person way back then. So I'm planning on reading the second one in October. Next up, we have a series that is about as opposite from Malazan as can be. It's historical fiction, it's manga, it's perfection. Oh my gosh, you guys know probably what it is already because I told you. I've been telling you. I'm gonna just shove it in your faces every chance I can because it is so good. It's so good, and that would be Vinland Saga. Currently, there is an anime that's been coming out on Amazon Prime. Anime is fantastic. It follows the story really well, and I'm ahead of the anime in the manga. They're so good. They're so good. And when it comes to the character development, like I said, it's basically as opposite from Malazan as can be, because the character development in this, I'm always just so engrossed in it, and I just want to know more, and everything that happens is so impactful. And some people say they think the series is a little boring because it is a story about Vikings, And so when you hear that, you think kapow and just fighting all the time, and that's not quite what this is. There are definitely battles and there are definitely fight scenes, and in typical anime manga fashion, they're always really over the top and really extreme and entertaining, but it's really very introspective, and sometimes there are discussions on philosophy and religion and love and things that you would not expect. Plus, the dynamics between the characters are so well done, and the villain, I guess you could say, in this beginning is one of the most interesting characters, not just as an antagonist, but just as a character. They're almost more engrossing than the main character himself, because the main character is somebody who currently is kind of shut down and has a one-track mind. I want to get vengeance. And this other character, always scheming. You never really know what they're up to. They always seem to have kind of an ulterior motive. Just such a good series. So reading some more of it. Continuing to discuss things are so good. I am also doing a reread this month for Storm My Archive. In October, we're going to be reading Way of Kings. For those of you that are wanting to join, it's not too late. You can join whenever. I'll have the link down below. This is not through Facebook. This is through an online thing called Caravan. So it's a buddy reading website. That's kind of what it's designed for. And I can't wait. I can't wait to jump back into the series. So many of you know I'm a huge Sanderson fan, and Way of Kings is so good, but there's a lot to it, and I definitely think it's a story that, while I really enjoyed it the first time I read these books, I am expecting to get even more things out of it this second time around. I'm excited for those of you who it's going to be your first read through. I'm so pumped to see what you're going to think of it. And it's a story that I've done some kind of artsy videos for it. I did literally character art for one of the characters in the story. I've done some musical compositions and performances for you guys for some of the characters in this series, and every time I do anything like that, I just want to get back into this world, and I can't help but think, can it just be the end of the year already? Because I really want to read these stories. I want to read about these characters again. So I'm just really, really excited to get back into Way of Kings. The last main story on my TBR would be the next book in the First Law trilogy, because I read the first one and I ended up really liking it, and I don't want to wait too long to pick up this second one. It had some of my absolute favorite scenes that I've come across in fiction, and I feel kind of bad because this is a story that is so character driven. It's sort of hard to pinpoint an actual plot. The plot kind of is the characters in the first book, and I've been told that in the second and third books you kind of see more of the plot itself. But the character Glokta is, I don't even have words for him. He's a character that he kind of tortures people for work, and yet I'm somehow like, but guys, he's just misunderstood and needs somebody to be its friend. And I just want to get back to reading about him. And Giselle is a character that in the first book is so smug and full of himself and ridiculous, and I kind of love him, sort of, because I hate him, but he's so entertaining to read about. And then Logan Ninefingers is a boss. He's super cool, and I just really I like these fellas. I want to read more about them. I do not want to wait too long to pick up more of this. I'm going to try to do a very specific set schedule for myself for reading these books and putting up book reviews for them. So I'll go ahead and put up for you guys when I'm anticipating on having reviews up for these. I still have some other books that I would like to review, some things that are going to be carrying over from September. So I know this TBR looks kind of small, but it's because two of the books are really dense epic fantasy stories, and I want to make sure I don't have myself be distracted while I'm reading them. But I also want to try to stay on track and be diligent with the reviews for these, because I definitely am probably going to have a lot to say about all the things I mentioned, in case you couldn't tell. I mean, I talked about 4 stories, and I feel like I've talked a lot. Coming full circle, though, do you guys notice how much better the lighting is? In the span of time it took me to blabber on and on and on about these 4 stories, it has now brightened back up. And also, I can't help but notice it got stormy when I was talking about Malazan. I feel like that's a sign. There's a coin. I hear a coin, guys.
Malazan.
Anyway, let me know what you're planning on reading in the month of October. I will have the buddy reads for both Malazan and store my archive down below. So I would love to have you guys join because I love buddy reading. That's kind of the whole point of talking about books, you know, online, is to talk with other people about them. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.